Lewis Hamilton's post-race words cut sharper than any telemetry. "The most difficult car I've driven here." That was the verdict on the SF25 after a brutal British Grand Prix. A car that snapped at him through cops, fought him in every sector, and nearly threw away a podium chance. But when Ferrari team boss Fred Vasseur was asked about it, his reaction wasn't urgency, it was amusement. "I think Max did the same," Vasseur said with a grin, referencing Verstappen's complaints about his Red Bull, as if Hamilton's suffering could be dismissed by comparison. No deep dive, no admission, just a smile and a subtle dodge. But here's what matters. Hamilton's message wasn't about one bad race. It was a warning shot about next year's car. Unbelievably tricky. Very snappy. Those weren't throwaway lines. They were coded signals to the people building the future. And Vasseur, he laughed. So the question is, was that the smirk of a man in control? Or the mask of a team in quiet disarray? Because his next words revealed something even more disturbing. After deflecting Hamilton's remarks with a Verstappen reference, Vasseur continued. But his tone shifted. He admitted he hadn't spoken to Lewis yet. Then, almost casually, he added, "He said it was very snappy, but it was not always true." Wait, not always true? So now Ferrari's boss is publicly suggesting Hamilton's feedback may be exaggerated, that his live assessment, while wrestling a car through wet, dry chaos, is somehow inaccurate. This isn't just disagreement, it's a fracture, because if the driver's emotional real-time warning is dismissed as not always true, what message does that send to the engineers, to the fans, to Hamilton himself? The man who dragged that car to P4, who nearly caught Hülkenberg despite instability and strategic hesitation, is now being subtly gaslit by the very team that promised to trust him. And make no mistake, snappy wasn't a vague complaint. It described a balance so unpredictable it nearly threw away an entire weekend. So when Vasseur downplays it, we're forced to ask, is he protecting Ferrari or burying the truth Lewis tried to reveal? The next example confirms which. Hamilton didn't just say the car was snappy, he broadcasted it mid-race in real time while fighting through the chaos of Silverstone. "It just won't stay still," he said. Unbelievably tricky. Those weren't poetic flourishes, they were red flags, and yet, inside Ferrari's garage, those words were met with reinterpretation. Vasseur's not always true line wasn't analysis, it was erasure. Because when a 7-time world champion says the car is undrivable and still finishes P4, you don't argue the telemetry, you dissect it. You don't compare him to Verstappen. You ask, why is he still fighting the car in July? But Ferrari didn't. They smiled, they shrugged, and they missed the deeper meaning. Hamilton wasn't just describing the car, he was exposing the disconnect. A driver screaming for clarity, a management team downplaying the noise. This isn't a setup issue, it's a communication crisis. Because when the radio screams and the boss whispers back, something's breaking. And it's not just rear traction. Next, we reveal just how much that silence is costing them. Vasseur didn't stop at downplaying Hamilton's struggles. When asked about Leclerc's disastrous P14, he gave a rare admission. His race was done on lap 1. The cause? Ferrari pitted Leclerc for slicks after the formation lap, in damp conditions. While the rest of the field stayed cautious, Ferrari took a reckless gamble on lap 0. That decision buried Leclerc's race before it even began. No traffic, no damage, no technical failure, just poor judgment. And now, Vasseur admits it with a shrug. Like weather roulette justifies strategic surrender. But here's the twist. Both drivers suffered, one through balance, one through strategy, and yet only one is being questioned. The one who finished P4 and almost snatched a podium. So we ask, if Vasseur admits Leclerc's race was lost instantly, why is Hamilton being challenged for driving a car he says nearly broke him? This isn't about defending Leclerc or Hamilton, it's about consistency, or the glaring lack of it. Because Ferrari didn't just lose time on Sunday, they lost trust. And trust, unlike tires, doesn't heat up the next lap. The next moment reveals just how deep that erosion goes. Vasseur tried to wrap Silverstone in soft words. It was a difficult weekend, a lot of regrets, it happens to everyone. But this wasn't just a one-off strategy miss or a car slightly out of balance. It was the same Ferrari trend: indecision, deflection, disconnection, played on repeat. When a team boss says, "I think everybody has regrets," and shrugs off both drivers' complaints, what he's really saying is, this isn't urgent, it's normal. But it's not normal. It's not normal for a team with this budget and these drivers to destroy Leclerc's race on lap 1. It's not normal for a 7-time world champion to fight the car more than his rivals. And it's definitely not normal to dismiss both as acceptable under changing conditions. Silverstone wasn't a fluke, it was a flare. Another signal that Ferrari isn't reacting fast enough, listening deeply enough, or evolving under pressure. Vasseur says, let's focus on quali and the championship. But how can you focus forward if you're unwilling to admit what's broken now? Because this wasn't a blip. This was the mask slipping, and what it revealed, you'll see in the next moment, the one they hoped no one would notice. When Vasseur said, I didn't have time to discuss with Lewis about the balance, it sounded like a scheduling issue. But let's not be naive. Post-race debriefs at Ferrari are structured, prioritized, intentional. If the team boss hasn't spoken to Hamilton after a race where he called the car undrivable, it's not just a delay, it's a choice. Hamilton isn't just a driver. He's a political figure, a symbol of Ferrari's supposed rebirth. But that silence, that lack of urgency, suggests something chilling. Ferrari is listening selectively. Leclerc's feedback, always dissected. Signs, consulted. But Hamilton, the outsider, the newcomer, the threat to internal comfort, is already being positioned as a solo operator, respected in headlines, sidelined in meetings, and that's the real danger. Not that the SF25 is flawed, we know it is, but that the team shaping the SF26 may be ignoring the one man who could define it. This isn't just a communication gap, it's strategic exclusion. And Silverstone was the first public crack in a system built to look united. What happens next could fracture more than trust. It could rewrite loyalties. And the next race may bring the tipping point. Fred Vasseur's smile wasn't casual, it was calculated. Because deep inside Ferrari's leadership, there's a fear they won't speak aloud, that Lewis Hamilton might be bigger than the team's structure. Hamilton doesn't just drive, he redefines cultures. He questions setups, challenges protocols, and brings a level of scrutiny that scares stagnant systems. That's not comfort, that's confrontation. So when Vasseur downplays Lewis's complaints, draws comparisons to Verstappen, and brushes off balance discussions, it's not just deflection, it's containment. Keep the narrative small. Keep the driver in check. Preserve Ferrari's internal order. But Hamilton doesn't fit into orders. He breaks them, especially when they fail. And here's the catch. Every time Ferrari minimizes his input, they confirm his warnings. Every time they resist his influence, they expose their own insecurity. Because Vasseur isn't just managing a car, he's managing a legacy clash between the Ferrari that protects its tradition and the Hamilton that demands transformation. And in Silverstone, that clash went public. But the real explosion? It's still building. The next move will show who's really steering this ship. Silverstone didn't just leave tire marks on the asphalt, it left fingerprints on Ferrari's inner walls. A frustrated Hamilton, a silenced warning, a smirking team boss, and behind it all, a question neither press conference nor radio chatter could answer. Who's truly in charge at Maranello? Because what we saw wasn't leadership, it was containment. A system more concerned with optics than answers, with unity than urgency. And while Leclerc sinks and Hamilton shouts, Ferrari shrugs. But here's the truth. When you recruit Lewis Hamilton, you don't get a silent ambassador. You get a force, a demand, a reckoning. Vasseur may think he's managing the transition, but Silverstone proved otherwise. Hamilton is no longer waiting for change, he's demanding it. With every frustrated radio message, every cut through chaos, every unfiltered post-race truth. And if Ferrari keeps ignoring that voice, it won't be just results that suffer, it'll be the entire structure, because legends don't follow, they lead, whether you're ready or not. So tell us, Fred, how long can you keep smiling before the foundation cracks?